We talked about intrusion detection. Let's talk about firewalls. As I said before, a firewall is your front door. You can have an actual device that is a firewall, or you can have a server with firewall software, or you can have software on a specific machine. So you can have a network firewall and you can have a personal firewall. And it's actually good to have both going on. A firewall's job, be it software or hardware based, is to basically control the traffic that goes in and out of either a network or a specific computer. And so a firewall intercepts all traffic going in and out, and it has a set of rules that says this kind of traffic is allowed, this kind of traffic is not allowed. Firewalls have a couple of philosophies. Now, you've got everybody out on the internet, right? And that's the public network. It's the untrusted network. And you have no idea what's out on the internet. Everything's on the internet, including hackers and cyber terrorists and whatever. And then you've got your network, and between your network and the internet is the firewall, the corporate firewall. And then hopefully on key servers, or all servers and all workstations, are software-based firewalls, personal firewalls as well. All of the operating system products have some software-based firewall, and it's a good idea to have it on. You can overdo it a little bit and be a little too restrictive, and that requires just tuning the firewall settings properly. The general rule of thumb is that if the traffic starts out on the internet, like right here I am on the internet. If the traffic starts on the internet and is initiated on the internet, someone out there trying to come in, the default is the firewall will completely reject anything that starts out here. Now the question is, what if it starts on the trusted network, the inside network? So we've got the inside corporate LAN over here, or the internal organization, or the home network, or whatever. What about traffic that starts on the trusted side and it's trying to go out? Will the firewall permit it or not? And there are two philosophies here. The first philosophy is allow all traffic that is initiated on the inside, what we call outbound traffic, but that's kind of a confusing term because most connections actually are two-way. But allow all traffic that's initiated on the inside trusted internal network to just go out, and make a note of that session that's going out so that any reply that comes back is also permitted back in. And when this session is done, I close my browser, I'm done picking up external email, I'm done doing whatever, then that entry is deleted and any more trying to come in is halted. So the first philosophy is all traffic that is outbound initiated from the inside is permitted. And then bit by bit, you clamp down on it. As you need to, you add rules saying you may not use certain protocols. So, okay, I allowed everything, but now no more FTP and no more Telnet. And no more going to this site and that site, and no more gaming, and no more going to eBay, and no more shopping online, and no more viewing videos, and no more downloading things. And so rule by rule, you slowly add rules on a need basis. So you start out wide open and then you slowly clamp down. That's the first philosophy. The other philosophy is you start out not allowing anybody to go out for anything. And then you have to then make rules to specifically allow things. Most firewall products actually start like that, unless it's a very simple plug and play kind of thing. Most of them start with no rule allowing anything out. You have to, as an administrator, deliberately decide to create a rule. And now the rule can be, hey, everybody can go out as they please, or only HTTP web traffic and HTTPS secure web traffic. And then you can add as you please. It is totally up to the organization and the security posture of the organization to determine what they want. Larger organizations will probably start with absolutely nothing in either direction and then make exceptions on a need basis. Small organizations will probably start with absolutely everything can go out and then we'll clamp down as we need. And again, it depends upon the security posture of the organization and what are we trying to accomplish here. So firewall is really basically a router with a lot of rules. Firewalls have the ability to either inspect every single packet singly or watch whole conversations. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So with firewalls here, the simplest type of firewall is to just look at every packet as it goes by. So I've got this IP traffic going through a firewall, going from the inside network, headed out. And as it comes up, the firewall halts it, peels it open a little bit, takes a look. Okay, where are you headed? What's your payload? Okay, you can go. Next packet comes along. Okay, let me see what you're doing. No, you're not allowed to go to that particular IP address. Forget it. And it drops the packet. And most firewalls don't even send a message back saying, hey, I dropped your traffic. So you can have a simple firewall that just does packet inspection, packet filtering. And most routers allow you to do that, even though they're not specifically considered to be a firewall. Most routers can be configured for simple packet filtering. You can then have a firewall do something called stateful inspection. And stateful means I'm going to watch a whole conversation. So the first one, when we're packet filtering, is stateless. I don't know the state of the conversation at all. I don't know the status of it. I don't know if we started it, in the end, in the middle. I don't know, because I'm just looking at individual packets as they come through. But in stateful, I'm watching the beginning of a conversation. Most network connections, the two sides, the two computers, your workstation and a server or whatever, start with a handshake. And they start with actually a TCP handshake, where they establish basically what their starting sequence numbers are, and hello, I want to start, thank you very much. And so a stateful firewall watches that handshake, and it makes note of the conditions of that connection. What ports are you guys using? What IP addresses? What protocols? Okay, and after that handshake, here come the packets, everything's good. Then all of a sudden, one of the packets looks different, looks funny. Suddenly the IP address is different. Suddenly the port is different. Suddenly there's a protocol that isn't expected. Or there is something in the payload that isn't expected. Packet filtering does not know how to notice that the conversation has shifted. But stateful inspection does and goes, wait a minute. Normal TCP IP connections should not shift suddenly like that, because that shift of suddenly the IP address, the protocol, the port changes is very often indicative of some malicious code has taken over the conversation and has hijacked it or is inserting something malicious. And at that point, the firewall can look at the rule and go, oh, time to cut this conversation off, and it just pulls the plug and cuts it. So you can have firewalls that do both. Most firewall products will do stateful and stateless. Then we have a concept called a proxy. Sometimes the proxy is a whole separate device, usually a server with some software running on it. Sometimes it's the firewall with a service on it. And a proxy goes like this. So you want to go out to the internet and get that web page, huh? Just wait, I'll get it for you. And the proxy keeps the client, the workstation, the user, in a holding pattern, maintains this session, and starts a whole separate session to the internet, goes and grabs whatever the client wants, takes it, saves a copy, and hands a copy back. The next time another client wants the same thing, it's got a cached copy. Here you go, here you go, here you go. You can have firewalls that have proxies built into them, or you can have proxies that hide behind firewalls. So browsers go to the proxy, can you please go get me this web page, something. The proxy then goes to the firewall says, yeah, you're allowed to go to that website, go ahead. So you can have firewalls and proxies combined, or more often actually, they're actually separated into two different devices and two different services. Usually we use proxies for HTTP traffic, but we can use them for other kinds of traffic as well. The risk, of course, of a proxy is the proxy went and got me the web page, but this is a news site that's constantly updating, or a vendor site where the supply is different constantly. When I'm checking on the status of an order, or how many do you have in stock, and a proxy might have content that's an hour old or a day old and is still giving me old stuff. So there's a productivity risk, there's a performance risk running proxies. But proxies are really good in that they go and fetch on behalf of the client. They don't just allow the client traffic to just go right on through. So firewalls can do all these things. They can also do something called stateful inspection. And they can do stateful multi-layer inspection, meaning they can look at the data payload here, and they can look at the TCP header, and they can look at the IP header. They can check all parts of that packet. Now, some common firewall features are that they can scan the traffic going through, they can scan the payloads of the traffic going through, they can scan the IP addresses, the ports, the protocols, they can filter the content like, you can go out, but hey, what are you doing sending an executable out? Stop. And it will strip out the executable, or it will just drop that packet. It can also identify different signatures of malware and malicious traffic, just kind of like antivirus signatures are identified. These are signatures of malicious traffic. And they can set up something called a zone. You can have firewalls connected to several different networks, and each network has a different level of trust called a zone. So the next thing we're going to talk about is some common implementations of firewalls, including screen subnets and DMZs.